Okay, maybe not. All right, now you can hear me. Well, that's infuriating. I've been talking to myself this whole time. Um, yeah. So the app I'm using for um that I'm using the the microphone part of it, like it crashed. It was working when I started streaming, and then I guess it crashed and I didn't get a notification. So that's fun. Hi, Joanne. Welcome. I was saying hello to you earlier. I apologize. Yeah, that's great. Lovely. Yeah, now I had to restart it. Now it's working. So, hi, Donnelly. Welcome. Joanne, welcome. That's embarrassing and frustrating. So, yeah. Uh, your ears work again. That's good. Oh, that's so frustrating. I might have to give up on using this software. It's just so convenient. The joys of streaming and technology, right? Yeah, for sure. It just it allows me to do a bunch of things that are very useful, but this microphone issue happening. So yeah, not really happy about that. Anyways, Donnelly, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. It's great to have you, as always. Joanne, if you're still here, thank you for stopping by. How are you doing? Hope you're having a good night. Yeah. Uh, I was talking about my painting process, but um, apparently none of that went through. So any questions are welcome. I'll go over some of it in a minute. Software I'm using, well, I'm on PC, but I'm using OBS to stream, but for the audio interface, I'm using a Steel Series. I'm using their software. Um, what it allows you to do is it allows you to have multiple. Um, it gives you basically like virtual um, inputs and outputs, and so that lets you um, decide where the sounds from where go to what, basically. So I could listen to music in earbuds, um, and have theoretically I could play different music to the stream if I wanted to, or uh, you know, or if I have two things playing, I can adjust the levels on them independently, uh, stuff like that. So it has a lot of conveniences, but apparently my earbuds make it crash or act weird sometimes. So yeah. No, I don't use Mac. I've thought about buying a Mac for work purposes. Um, but I also like to game, so I don't know that I could ever fully make the transition over to Mac. So it's a bit of a Diva software, apparently. It has a lot of stream functionality also for people who like play video games and stream and so on. But yeah, really disappointed with the fact that like things will stop working and then it won't notify me that things aren't working. That's the biggest issue. Hi, Leah. Welcome. How are you doing tonight? Tired but not sleepy enough to go back to sleep? Feel that. Feel that. So today, I am starting a new painting. It's a bit of an experiment. We'll see how it goes. Uh, I'm trying a new reference source that they're not the best quality. That's why it's kind of like an experiment. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm not too worried about the beginning stages. It's later on where it might be, I might run into some issues. Experimental art hype, yeah. Yeah. Well, so um, I'm working towards a series of paintings. Like I mentioned this in previous streams if, sorry if I'm repeating myself, but yeah, I'm working towards like making a series of paintings. It doesn't have to be huge. I think it's like 10 to 15 paintings constitutes a series kind of thing. Um, so yeah. And I had an idea to use certain reference sources for it. And so that's what this is right now. I'm trying to give it a shot, see how it goes, and then if it goes well, I'll probably get into it as a series. If it doesn't go well, then I might have to think of something else. The idea is I don't know if anyone's familiar with found photography, but it's photos that have been basically abandoned or um oh, I don't know what the right word, not left, but sometimes left, abandoned, found, whatever. Um, Many of them very old, like very old. But yeah, that was the source I'm looking at. And it's hard to find good photos of, but especially online, but it's doable. And you can purchase them too if you want. That's another thing that's kind of cool. You've used sites like Pixels for reference. Pixels is good. I've used oh, what are they called? Un Unsplash, I think it's called. Unsplash is good for, royalty-free images. Um those are some there's a few other ones that do royalty-free stock images. You can also search on what is it, Flickr? I think it is. Um, you can you can like yeah, Pixabay is good, yeah. But no, I think it's Flickr where like photo, people upload their photos. There's a You can search based off of the well, so on Flickr, you can search based off of the what's it called? The license that that they are offering it. So some people put it up as, you know, free, and other people put it as you know, attribution. A lot of people put it up as copyrighted, you know, because it is by automatically copyrighted. But you can put it into the search so you can get what you're looking for specifically. Got to keep that in mind. Yeah, it's hard to find good, you know, photo reference. And even then, like I have spent hours digging through those sites looking for, you know, good reference images. It is not easy because like I've said many times, what makes a good photo doesn't necessarily make a good painting. They're not the same. Especially modern photography. Yeah. You've gone on the forever reference slog. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's some, you know, I do wonder, like there's some painters who seem like they can take really bad reference and make something amazing out of it. And you know, but it they definitely, like, how can I put this? It's not a one to one. Even if they make something great out of it, often they have to adjust how they're doing it, or their style is one that like really works, right? It's not a like it's not always a like they make any kind of art. It's like a specific kind. The forever slog also applies to fonts sometimes. You also do graphic design. I have a font story regarding graphic design. Um, in art school, I went out to lunch with some of my fellow students, and a couple of them were graphic designers, and um, they spent practically all lunch talking about different fonts, the different fonts that they like, the ones they don't like, you know, what fonts the menu had at the restaurant, um, just everything. It was just like a non-stop lunch about fonts. And I spent the entire time sitting quietly, eating my food, not participating because I don't get fonts very much. Like, yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things that really doesn't I it doesn't speak to me. I'm not a good artist for fonts. Although I will say I have watched some videos about fonts and like the creation of fonts and you know, all the details that go into it and everything. And I'd say I respect it more than I used to. Uh, Still not really my thing, but that's fine. Not everything has to be. Oh yeah, have I watched Helvetica? I think I did. Don't remember a lot of it, but I think so. That's that you know what, that probably is what I watched. I think I've watched one other thing, and then also I worked for us. I did work for a design boutique, and one of the people there was like making their own font, and they were showing me everything that they're doing with it and so on, and I was like, okay, this is a lot. It's boring, but um, I can see that lots going into this. So, and I should say boring to you know the dyslexic guy not into fonts that much. That's the only movie about fonts that comes to mind for you, anyways. Yeah, it might be the only one. I might have watched YouTube videos about it, though. I think I saw something on Comic Sans once. Actually, it might have been. Actually, it might have been in Helvetica, but I'm pretty sure I've seen a YouTube video or two about Comic Sans, about how it's like really bad font and poorly made. Um, so you know, might have not been a movie. Still informative. So I'm gonna briefly touch on my process right now. I'm just sketching in, you know, roughing in the figures and the environment, which I think is pretty obvious. I'm just using uh, paint with some walnut oil. I was using my leftover paint. I switched to this mix just because after I do one pass, I usually change the color so that I can see my second pass. I can differentiate between the two easily. Um, I don't have any particular colors that I use um, for this part, and I don't, what's it called? There's oh, brain's not uh, thinking of the word. I don't tone the canvas. I used to, but I don't do that anymore. It felt like it was just more work than. During your story, you're kind of hoping I was going to throw a Comic Sans grenade into Lunchmate's conversation and walk away or something. I wish I didn't even know enough about Comic Sans at the time to do that. But yeah, I would today if I could. I unrelated to painting, but on my visiting family, I uh, I trolled my family, some of my relatives in person um, at dinner one night. It was pretty. Uh, so it was like the last dinner we were going to have before I flew out, and some of the people weren't. I have some people who are like a little socially awkward in my family, And so they're just kind of sitting there, not talking much and stuff. So I brought up uh the question, and I'm not going to get into it on here, but um it's a question I've heard online. Whether question is, do straws have one or two holes? And I started an argument, and I would play devil's advocate regardless of like whichever side was winning more, I would jump to the other side to keep it going. Um yeah. And um it ended up getting everyone into the argument, and it was pretty funny. It was great. It was all in good fun. Everyone was laughing. It was a good bit of in-person trolling. Hey Cody, new day, new painting. Yes, indeed. It's an experiment today. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's time to try something new, or start a new painting. I was so right now I'm just blocking it in. What is the experiment? So the experiment is uh the experiment is the reference source. I picked up I found online some uh abandoned photos, and I'm going to see if I can make a painting out of this. They're not the best quality photos, or scans for that matter. So the experiment is whether or not I can take this and translate it into something. Um, I have to edit it in a certain way, and so on. And so I don't know that it'll make good reference. It's not traditionally good reference, that's for sure, but I'm hoping that it matches with the mood I'm going for. So that's the experiment. And if it goes well, then we'll probably be making a series of it. Although I'll have to acquire a bunch of my own reference for it, which won't be a problem. So, like I was saying, the beginning part shouldn't be a problem because it's pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward drawing kind of thing. Shouldn't be an issue. Going to be an issue when it comes to details and color. Um, yeah, that's where it's going to start getting very rough. And Conley, you argue that a straw is a flute waiting for more holes. Uh, sure. I mean, I don't know that that would quite work, but yeah, why not? It's a whole discussion. Like I said, I don't want to get into it, but it was funny. It was funny to get my family riled up a bit, and actually get people who weren't talking to participate as well. That was the main focus of it, really. So I was talking about my bit of my process. I don't tone my canvases. I know a lot of people do. I just found it to be more frustrating than beneficial. Um, and I don't have a particular a go-to color for laying in my paintings. I often just use whatever I have left over from my previous painting. And what I'll do is give you guys a little bit of a preview. I will sketch this in like this, and then after this, I will go in and block in um, major shapes and colors. And then I will take my roller to it, and I will mess it all up. And then I will go in and with a wipeout tool, correct my placements, and then start painting everything again. So hopefully we get to that stage tonight. Although we'll see, my neck might end up giving out before I can get to that. It's been so had such a tight neck today, so we'll see. Hopefully I can. Uh, we have talked about chiropractors before, I'm pretty sure. This is, I think, more muscle than what the chiropractor can help with. Um, I am going to physical therapy. Uh, I tried doing some little, maybe too much uh, into my life, but I did try doing some of my physical therapy exercises today, but my neck is just so messed up right now that I couldn't do a lot of them. So, you know, hopefully it's better tomorrow. Worse tomorrow. I might have to skip Wednesday's stream just out of necessity. But we'll see. I don't know that it's related. It could be related to the fact that I painted for hours and hours yesterday. Like not only did I do the stream, after the stream I kept painting. So could be that. A good chance that it's that. Is it messed up from an accident or something? So yeah, initially. Um I had a car accident that messed up my neck and back, but it's probably also messed up from overwork and so on. So, combination of things. But yeah, in 2015, a drunk driver ran into me and messed up my neck and my back. Okay, got it clean. So yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I do think maybe the painting for so many hours, um, it's one of those things that the more you do it, the more you build up a tolerance doing it. I hadn't I hadn't painted that much for a while. Definitely. So this is one area I struggle with, which is mixing enough paint for like large areas. Definitely have an issue with that. My understanding is most art students also have that issue, or at least I've heard that a lot. Gotten better at it, but every once in a while, when it comes to like backgrounds and stuff like that, I still kind of default to old habits. I'm sure actually that's something Cody could speak to, but that's one of the things he mentions students a lot, putting out enough paint and mixing enough, but may have stepped away. But yeah, I used to get like frequent migraines. Car accident. Spending way more than I ever wanted to on a good chair helped significantly, but I wish I didn't have to do that. But you know, not a fix all. It's help. Cody is here. Just trying to kill Basilisks and failing. Ah, ha, ha. Ah, good old Elden Ring. You actually don't harp on that too much, because it's a good practice to try and remix a color. You like to say the best way to learn how to mix a color is to mix a lot. Yes, that makes sense, and I agree. Some people do those color charts. I never, by the time I heard of color charts, I uh I was already confident enough in my mixing because I hadn't been exposed to them prior to that, so um I always felt like they were a waste of time and paint for me. But yeah, some people swear by them. I don't know. They don't making color charts where you like mix up all your colors and you basically swatch them all out and so on. Never really, not something that like spoke to me or I thought was useful. But not to say that it can't be just personal. Trying to kill Placidusax. What weapon are you using? And what level are you? For anyone who isn't familiar, that's an Elden Ring uh, boss. So I have played the crap out of Elden Ring, so I like the game a lot. The thing that I hate about that particular boss the most is the run back. Oh my god, run back's the worst. I do think though not putting out enough paint is a big deal. Not mixing specifically, putting out enough paint. I I used to have so much trouble with that. Um, Part of the reason was because I wasn't using the right brushes either, and that was making oil painting very difficult. I would be ashamed if I knew that my level you're using Oh, you would be ashamed if I knew your level. Nah. Using Bloodhound Fang at +10 with Blood Flame. Yeah. Flame grant me strength and Golden Vow. Plus a Wondrous Physic to boost strength and a Ruin arc. And a Mimic Tear. That's a lot. You might want to forego the Mimic Tear. You might want to try without it. Trying to remember if summoning Mimic Tears also affect um the bosses. I think it gives them more stance pressure and more health. Um I'm not sure on not sure about Ashes, but if you summon help it does. So I'm not sure about Ashes. You're bad at the game. It's a tough game. Fun game though. Yeah, that boss particularly the hardest part about it is the run back. Because by the time you get back to them, you're already cold again and takes a little bit of time to get back into it. Anyway, so yeah, boss runs are not your favorite. Yeah. So yeah, when I first started oil painting, I was using essentially watercolor brushes. Like wasn't intentional. I just didn't know what, decent brushes were. So I was using very soft synthetic brushes, which is not the way to go with oil paints. Um, and it was made the painting process so difficult. Um, and I'd have to what's it called put so much medium to get anything to flow, and it felt like I could never put down enough paint. Um, yeah, it it was beginner mistakes, very challenging. I did try called bristle brushes, see if that was my issue. But then I ran into a different issue on bristle brushes, and so I couldn't like correct the issue. Which is bristle brushes are very stiff, and they can literally take the paint off the canvas and like dig into it. Um, so yeah, that can cause all kinds of problems. Do I change brush shapes much? You find really only use long flats, maybe a long filbert here and there. Yeah, I I pretty much only use flats or long flats for the most part. Um, I have some filberts. I regret buying them usually because it I don't use them as much, or I find very few times to use them. Um, Rounds are very useful for like as like riggers or liners or something. If there's, you know, if if it's needed, it's useful. Otherwise, it's never touched, basically. So yeah, I think that's about it. I, yeah, there was like one. I have tried some dagger brushes, and if they were or knife brushes or whatever you want to call them, if they were longer. No, not longer. Sorry, stiffer. They were stiffer. I could I could see using them, but they're not. So they're they're too soft. So they're not good. They're not very useful. Or gotta take off, Donnelly. No worries. You'll be back if I'm still on. Awesome, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Always good chatting with you. You like to use just the corner of your flat for a point. You really dislike rounds, but you only use rounds for watercolor. Yeah. Uh, Actually sounds very familiar. Um, I Same thing. Round, but for certain like long, swoopy stuff, rounds are very useful. I usually don't bother, and I end up just using the edge of my flat. But I'll put it this way: it's theoretically very useful. Um, yeah. I just end up not doing it. One thing I find interesting in painting. So, I've seen other people's paintings, and there are times where I can identify that they've used like a rigger brush or like like a round brush to put in like you know, air, for instance, or something that's like long, flowy, and swoopy, kind of thing. Um, and they're I don't know how to describe it well. But I guess I don't necessarily like the look of that um, all the time. And sometimes it looks good, obviously. Um, but I end up doing a lot of my hair. I end up painting with a flat brush, and I actually go. Um, I use the flat of the brush, and I go like I don't pull it the way of the hair. I actually just like do marks along the way, like uh, multiple lines, essentially, kind of thing. I don't know if I'm describing it well, but yeah, I do that for a lot of hair. Not all, like swoopy lines have their place for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I find I like that for some. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, but I'm doing a decent job describing it. Yeah, I don't know. So there's a lot of paintings out there, specifically in oil paint, where the where things kind of look like a melted wax doll. Not like the face features. I'm talking about like texture wise. Um, so I'm very, you know, like very not worried about that, but cognitive of that. Not that I did a good job pronouncing that, but yeah, I something I constantly think about when I'm mixing and putting down um marks and stuff. I don't have any particular artist to like give an example of, unfortunately. But yeah, I've definitely seen it enough times to like pick it out when I see it. So at this stage, I don't always follow the like the rules, so to speak, of like usually when I paint, I try and paint from back to front a lot because that kind of makes sense. But at this stage, I know a lot of the details and a lot of stuff is going away. So I'm less concerned and I do not always follow that as closely. What you dislike is when you look at a painting and each stroke looks like a gimmick, like Bob Ross, for example. Yes, nothing against him. Absolutely. The more people that mimic him, but when someone says, "Oh, paint the trees using a fan brush in this motion," yeah, I agree. Me, you'd rather use one brush, and that way you're the one telling the brush what to do rather than the opposite. I get that. I think it's a mix. I do think that having brushes that make unique marks sometimes can be very helpful, especially like for grass. I know that's heading towards the Bob Ross area, and I understand how you feel about Bob Ross. I feel the same way. I glad he, got gets people into painting, but I do feel that way about his painting. Having said that, sometimes having like those random marks to it and stuff like that can be very helpful. Having said that, I paint so I have a handful of brushes here, literally like six, no, five. Anyways, and I mostly change between them for size issues more than anything. And then some of them are a little stiffer and some are a little softer. And so they're a little useful, a little more useful during certain sections of the painting because of that. Um, but yeah, that's mostly how I paint. Um, I do like, and I also like to when it comes to stuff like painting grass and trees, I like the abstracted look. Like I don't mind if it's just like chunky brush marks. Um, I don't need to paint every leaf. I'm not that painter. I do not have the patience to paint leaves. So yeah, um, I don't mind abstracting everything and painting chunky and just approaching it all that way. Having said that, there is a very big disadvantage to that approach, um, in particular instances, specifically, what's it called? Typically, when you're trying to paint something that's real with something that's like not real. What I mean by that is like, let's say you're painting a person holding a photograph, or tattoos, or paintings within your painting, or drawings within your drawing. Um, because I'm painting an abstracted version of a person anyways, it it becomes challenging because then the the paintings or the other images are also abstracted, so it starts to lose some of its effectiveness, I guess. It's not the you know it's not that it's not doable, but it's definitely something I'm aware of because I've run into it before. Context cues help a lot, but you can't rely on context cues because sometimes the context cues aren't there. So here I'm already running into some issue uh, because of the reference I'm using. I'm probably going to have to change some of the background color. Yeah. Yep. Just not sure what I'm going to do with it. So the original reference doesn't actually have color. I did colorize it, but that's not, true color, obviously. So it creates all kinds of problems. And I could just do like a black and white copy, well, painting, not copy, or like, give it like a single color, like monochrome type of thing. But that's really not what I want to. I've seen other artists, colorize uh like black and white photos. Uh they've done a really good job of it. some of them. Nicholas did that in at least one video. You love doing that? It's looking cool already. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's I've never done it before, so it's definitely a challenge. Um, you know, it I th I think I think I'm going to adjust the basically the background color, but I haven't quite decided. So it's like a brick wall, but not like not real brick, or not like exposed brick. So I don't usually those are white, uh, and you know white walls can be adjusted in any direction you want, really. If you're still working on Placidus X, by the way, um, one piece of advice I can give for Placidus X is uh, don't rush it. Like it's you know his like what's it called? I when I played him on like higher levels and it was really hard. I just I was much slower with everything, and so less hits, and you know a lot of his attacks are really easy to avoid if you're not next to him. So just don't worry too much about your buffs and just take your time, kind of thing. And I always went for the tail. I almost never went for the body or the front part of him. You're not at the moment. You went to Ruin Farm for a bit. That's good advice. First 5 times you fought him, you rushed in. You were way greedy, yeah. And you watched a video about him, and it was exactly what I was saying. Literally had him down one hit left, and he hit me first. Yeah, that happened, unfortunately. Yeah, that does happen. But yeah, I've had that happen many times with different things in that game. But yeah, I'm sure you'll get it when you get back to him. But yeah, most of his stuff is pretty easy to avoid. The hardest, you know, I don't know. One of the hardest things is the lasers, but that doesn't happen often, so it's not a big deal. It's actually fallen in your favor a few times where the mimic here kills the enemy right after you die, and it totally counts. Yeah, yeah, that has happened too. I've also had the like a poison effect or something uh trigger, you know, trigger after the fact. That's also happened. It's a really fun game. Did you get to and have you fought Melania? You don't feel proud of it, but it gets so hard that you don't care. I mean, it's in the game, like it just like stuff happens, There was there's one boss that accidentally fell off the side of a mountain and died, and that totally counted. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess. I mean, I know there are ways of cheesing it, but I didn't do that on purpose that time. I have since, but not that time. So it's just kind of like, all right, well, you know. Sometimes I fall off a cliff, sometimes they fall off a cliff, it evens out. You're actually backtracking last 2 days to do stuff you never did before. All I have left is Radagon, as far as required bosses go. Wait, Radagon? Uh, that's the last one, technically speaking, isn't it? Am I getting them? I'm bad with names. I'm getting my names confused. Radagon's the last boss. You like that philosophy? Yeah. I mean, hey, it happens. My first place, my first playthrough, I did without summons at all. But now that I'm into like um, new game plus 7, I am I'm using everything at my disposal. Summons, everything. Yeah, you're about to be Elden Lord. That's cool. Do you know, have you picked the ending you're going to go with? Do you know which one you going with? You don't know for sure. You have purposefully not looked into any of them, but my gut tells me the one that has to do with Ronnie, just because her quest line was the one you really got into. That's cool. I'm assuming you finished her quest line. So here I'll I will spoil, sort of, not really, but just letting you know, you can have multiple endings available to you and pick right at the end, basically. It just depends on how you do the game. So you can have multiple options when you go in. You did finish your quest, but selfishly because you wanted a Blade's mask. Um, I don't think you need. You can get his mask without even doing his her quest. Um, it's the rest of the rest of his gear that you can't get. Yeah, I think the mask is there always available. Don't tell me that's true because you spent weeks working on that. Uh, I'm sorry, I think so. The mask is on the like you just have to go up on the right on the tower wall and just pick it up. Isn't that where you got it? Am I getting my I might be getting my gear mixed up. So that there could be that. I mean I think her quest is a good one. And I think I'll be honest, I think her ending is the best one. I won't tell you what it is, uh, not to spoil, but yeah, I do think I do like hers the most. So there's definitely I don't think it's a waste of time. Also, his full on gear is cool as hell. Um, maybe did you get the mask after killing him? Maybe I'm getting confused. Been a while. That's where you got it, but the internet told me that you had to finish your quest line so that you could fight him and then you could get it. I'm 90% sure. Unless they okay, let me rephrase that. I'm positive you can get it without killing him, without ever fighting him, unless they patched it and changed. But otherwise, yeah. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad now. And because yeah, I got it before ever fighting him. But they may have patched it and changed that. That does happen in this game. So right now my main goal is to not leave too too much in the way of uncovered canvas. A lot of the canvas will get covered up when I go over it in a minute with the roller, but it won't all get covered up. And the more that it's exposed, harder it is. You don't know, but you're not mad about it. Maybe a little mad about it, but her quest line was sick for sure. But day one of starting the game, I saw his character on loading screen and was like, I'm gonna look like that. Yeah. Well, and you couldn't achieve that look without all of his gear. You know, there it's not just the mask, there's the whole cape and everything. His sword's pretty good too, if you like big chunky swords. Oh, you were going to roll it? I'm excited to see that part of the process. Yeah, yeah. So what I do is I block it in roughly like this. Uh, then I'm going to roll it. Is a brayer on it, and then I will probably take a photo of it, put it on Photoshop real quick, um, and then I'll go back in and sketch out the placement of everything to adjust whatever needs adjusting. Because things get messed up, and then go back into painting that way. Having said that, I don't know that I'll be able to do all of it. I definitely will do the roller because the paint has to be wet for that. If I don't get around to the adjustment stage, it's not a big deal because usually I use a wiper, like a wiping tool to draw back in the what's it called? The adjustments. However, that's not the only way to do it. I can easily paint over later. Like it doesn't have to be done with the wiper tool. It's just when all the paint's wet, it's a lot easier to use than anything else. Although I don't know, I think I'm getting pretty close, so I probably will have time to do that. Unfortunately, I won't be able to actually show the Photoshop stage. Even if I do it on stream, I'll just be talking about it, but it's very straightforward. I don't do too much, tricks or anything with it. I just overlay the photos. So yeah, I think that's about it as far as the block in. almost. Yeah, there we go. So I have two brayers. Um, this one's soft, and I like it, but I think it does a better job than the hard one. Um, only I wish it was larger, but this is a small painting, so it should be fine. So the reason the reason I started using the roller is because of painters I like that use a roller, but they use it a little different than they do. The reason I started doing this was because, um, well, actually, there's numerous reasons. One is it's a way for me to uh, cover up the little spots that I may miss. Um, it also does a really good job of like neutralizing a lot of the color and condensing things. It adds in all kinds of little artifacts that I try and keep in some of the finished painting. Uh, it helps me be looser by not worrying too much because I end up messing it all up anyways. So why worry about it? Um, so yeah, there's a lot of reasons I ended up doing this. I love the areas where the background is going over the figures. Yes, the background goes over the figures. Sometimes the figures end up smearing into the background. Um, like there's this thing right here. I don't know, that just whatever. Will that stay in the final? Maybe, maybe not. Um, I try to embrace those mistakes as I go. Um, so that, you know, so that I can have those happy accidents. So yeah. So now what I do is I just take a photo real quick. I'll overlay this in Photoshop. Like, I could try and like eyeball it kind of thing, but it's just so much quicker to do it this way. It feels, you know, like I'm being stubborn if I try and eyeball it. So turn off this for a second. unfortunately, I can't be on this simply because of where my computer is. I can't. Thought about doing the screen share type of thing, but uh, one of which is I work on this, worried that I will make a mistake and do something for work. I really don't want that to happen. But if you've ever worked with a Photoshop or anything like that, it's pretty straightforward. The only thing that I do that is slightly different is there's one uh, there's one filter I use, Photoshop filter, is glowing edges. That's probably the only like uh unique thing I do sometimes. I use glowing edges to show the edges of the photo, and I overlay that on top of the painting so that I can just see like a almost like a drawing over it. Not 100%, and does introduce some issues if you don't know what you're doing when you do that. But yeah, that's the only like special thing I do. Oh, turn on my camera again. Yeah. So yeah, now everything's all smeared around. Um, I'll just go in with my wiping tool and draw it all back in, kind of just the general placement. But I want to be it's always I think an interesting dynamic of art where it's like you want to be expressive, you want to be I want to be expressive, I want to be loose. I also want to be exact, accurate. um, you know, but I don't want to be so um dogmatic about the accuracy that it takes away from the painting. If anyone's ever looked into painting like large murals and transfer, how to do those transfers, there's an aspect of that that shows up in here, which is because I now have all these marks on my painting, on my painting surface. When I'm drawing, I can compare what I'm drawing to those marks and get a pretty accurate placement of everything. Things perfect and not perfect. And it's definitely challenging sometimes to see through all the noise. But yeah, it is. is useful. And one thing that I think is really cool about this system is it lets me see where I was wrong. And because it's like so close to when I actually painted it, I feel like it's improved my accuracy over time. So I can compare like why did I think something was here versus here, so on. See also where I was right, so on. So yeah, I do think there's some benefit to it too. One of the things that I did learn out the hard way though is that I have to be aware of the grooves that the this is leaving in the paint. It's not an issue if I'm able to actually paint over them, it's not a problem. But if I don't have time and I leave it, it can cause problems later on. Because then I have these deep grooves that I have to like, paint over, and it's not easy to paint over them. Where you want to make a difference that makes it special. Oh wait, hold on, there's more I missed. I like to think that instead of training yourself to draw or paint, you're really training yourself to see. True, yeah. The physical act of painting isn't special. The seeing what's right or wrong. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely yes. You're absolutely right. It's a matter of seeing, and I do think that having that direct comparison can help. Well, I can say personally, I think it's helped my eye in that area. Um, and yeah, where you make differences, decisions, that makes it special. I agree, and that's why I like the like randomality of the um, and it's not 100% random. Obviously, I know if I'm going into thick paint in the background and go over it to the character, it's going to pull some of it. Like it's not, random, but I like the messiness of it because it gives me stuff to work with. So it gives me places to make decisions and places to, make decisions in either direction. And um, also like I said, it eliminates a lot of the like worry I'm not worried about getting everything right or wrong or whatever. It's fine. I know that I can go in. No, first of all, I know it's going to get messed up. And then I know I can go in and adjust it as needed and not worried. And so it allows me to loosen up a lot. Yeah, that's what it made you think of it. That's a cool part of my process. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I like I said, I'm definitely not the first person to use the brayer. I totally copied that. Two artists I really like that use brayers is Jeremy Mann and Alpi Effie. But both of them use them very differently than each other and me. Um, it's very interesting. Jeremy Mann, from what I've seen from the videos and stuff I've seen, he uses the when he was doing cityscapes, he used the brayer in setting up the painting. He would use it almost to like as to block in things, and then after that, he would use it for texture and paint splotches and stuff like that. When he does his figurative work, from what I can tell, he uses the brayer more for or has used it more for spots, like adding paint spots and colors and stuff like that. But I don't have any video of that, so I can't be 100%. Like he might use it in his layouts as well. I don't know. And then what's his name? Alpiefi. He has YouTube videos. You can go watch his process. But from what I can see, he mostly uses it at the end as a way of adding ink splotches and randomality to his paintings, from what I can tell, for the most part. He also, he has a way of painting things. Like usually leaves the background till the end and then paints in the background as a solid color. Um, and then he'll use the brayer, but he'll go over the figure and repaint in parts of it. He's not doesn't mind doing that. Um, so yeah, everyone has a different approach to things. I have used it in similar ways to them. I think um, that's how you learn, you know. So I've tried to mimic their aspects of their painting and styles and so on. I know one issue that a lot of artists deal with, and I've dealt with it as well, is the well, I mean, fear is a big issue, but like fear of the like blank canvas, fear of the sketchbook, um, fear of ruining quality materials. That I've had that one myself too. Um, and um, I think like one thing I've tried to develop in my painting is to not to be afraid of messing things up and repainting and so on. So um, if I need to, I'm no longer afraid of like wiping big parts of my painting out and just doing it again. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Um, and also feel like this approach where you like mess things up repeatedly as you go and redo it repeatedly also helps with that because it's like, yeah, it's it's fine. I'm just gonna have to redo it anyway. Not really a big deal. That's why I said I don't know that I could ever, well, currently I don't know that I could paint with a lot of transparency how I approach paint. Yours is more fear of being bold. You get around it by being bold early in the process so you can leave bold things in if you like them. I get that. But sometimes you wish you could convince yourself to just do a bold stroke of turquoise at the very end and call it done. I get that. Um, you know, have you have you ever tried um, taking your painting uh, into like painted, and then when you get to the place where you want to add those, you know, those additions, but you're afraid of it, take it into digital and add them in there first. That would be my first go to try it digitally. Or um, if not digitally, then you can always what's it called? Do the painting and then wait for it to dry and then do that on top of it. Yes, you do that occasionally, but it feels less bold. Sure, it feels less bold, but I mean, a lot of painting stuff is what what it feels like to you and what it looks like to other people are often polar opposites. I mean, there are people who do like, that like painterly style and it's like, people love that. People are like, "Oh, I wish I could paint so painterly and expressive and so on." And it's like, yeah, that's it's usually a very calculated way of painting. Um and it's often very slow, whereas they think it's very like quick and expressive, and it's like, no, 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 it's very, very slow. Uh they it's very painstaking of like, all right, I am going to put I'm going to mix the color, check the color, and I'm going to make a mark, and that's it. And then it's like, okay, stand back, evaluate. Um, you know, so sometimes it's very misleading. Yeah, you can always just wait for your painting to dry and then do it on top too. That's an option. Yeah, I think I also think there's nothing wrong with you know, doing it digitally. And then I'll say this, all right? So I edit my stuff digitally. There's uh all kinds of edits that I do um for different reasons. I edit the colors and so on. But I used to do a lot more editing. Like I used to put in a lot of the like abstract marks I was going to make, like trying to like essentially trying to paint it digitally first to make sure I knew how I was going to take it, kind of thing. And after doing that uh, quite a few times, I found I didn't need to do it nearly as much. I still do it to a degree, especially for colors, because you know, it's good to be able to see, but yeah, it's gotten to the point where it's like I can do a lot of the things I used to have to do with Photoshop. I can do on my own now in my head. I don't need it. It's just sometimes it makes it easier. Sometimes it's a convenience issue. Um, sometimes a lot of times I'm working with like horrible reference, in which case it's a way of salvaging the you know, salvaging it. But yeah, I definitely know that it one of those things that with time became less and less required. So the reason I mention that is because like maybe trying it a few times will, you know, kind of help you get there kind of thing. Yeah, there are workarounds, but what you're saying about the viewer misunderstanding the process kind of hits the point. They will see what they see, but I think the boldness is more for you. I see. I think you just need to ruin some paintings. Like you using the roller. I know I can do a good painting. What happens when you let it get messed up and work with it? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can definitely, in a way it's a little more painful because of time being what it is. But you can absolutely just do it at the end and you know, uh, also YOLO, and if it doesn't work out, oh well, you just have to repaint part of it. It's just obviously time being what it is. It can be a little more painful to do that, without a doubt. But if that like, you know, that is kind of what you're looking for, yeah. I don't know if this speaks to kind of what you're talking about at all, but hold on, I'll get painting I did. So I did this painting um, of Adam Conover for the writer's strike, and like this part of the eye, you know, like in the reference photo, you can see his eye a lot better, but I don't know. There was something about it when I was working on it. I was like, I liked the fact that it kind of hazed out and so on. So I, pushed that aspect of it. And you know, I don't know if that kind of is. I mean, it's not the only like bold thing or anything like or only bold way of doing, but that I don't know. It's definitely not something I would have left in years ago. You know, that speaks to it for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely been, been a process for me to get to this stage. I never would have done this, 10 years ago. Not a chance. I was too like detail and not confident enough in my, you know, my abilities. All right. It's getting kind of late and I'm gonna end soon. Just I'm trying to give a bit of a heads up that I'm gonna end now because of how delayed the stream can be. I wish I could paint more, but I can definitely feel my neck is not happy with me. So, because of that though, I do have to do something uh special to prepare for um normally normally at this stage I would just go back in and I would just go in and paint. Um you know, uh yeah, and that's like at this stage I can just start mixing color and start, just modeling and putting in form and so on. Um, However, because I I'm not up for doing that today, I want to what's it called? I want to soften some of these ridges that so these lines in the thick paint have created some harsh ridges. Um, Gotta take care of your body if you want to keep painting in the future. Yeah, that's for sure. No, you're fine. Oh, you don't have to apologize for monopolizing the chat at all. People are, I think I do a decent job of um, talking to multiple people if multiple people are in and want to. So I'm going to go in and smooth out any of the like very rough areas. I've never done this before. I've seen someone do it before. Um, but I also want to keep the marks that I made so that I can see them. But yeah, those grooves are very hard to paint over and not have them be noticeable later on. So I'm just trying to like flatten the parts of the groove that are like sticking up, which is funny because it's also making more like randomality and marks and stuff and a mess basically. I'm making a mess is getting it. But some of these are very very hard to paint over. I literally have had to like spackle over areas with like very thick paint. So I'm gonna try and like smooth it out a little. Having said that, this is a panel, and panels I can go in and like carve out the paint a lot easier than I can on canvases. So, and if I can get to painting tomorrow, it should be wet enough to not be an issue. But yeah. Yeah, thank you everyone for stopping by. Cody, thank you for all the chatting. I appreciate you talking with you. Don Lee, of course. Leah, I'm going to stop mentioning people by name in case I forget someone. But yes, everyone who stopped by, thank you so much. I appreciate the company. Um, I will be streaming on Wednesday unless my neck is way too messed up, and but I should be streaming on Wednesday. So I'll be continuing this painting, and you can see more of the process. Of course, the video will also be online later. And thanks for joining me. I said that already, but I do appreciate the company. All right, I think that's good enough for the most part. The face is the place I'm most worried about. So yeah, see you Wednesday. Have a good night, everybody.